I want to play this from Brian Enton from News Nation.
Under victim Maddie Mogen's fingernails. How big of a deal is this, Edwina?
I think this is a huge deal, huge. I think probably one of the most important things that we can take from the filings is that it was inconclusive, and then there was further testing that excluded Kohberger. And I think that's one of the most important things.
So, and it was interesting because at one point in the document, it said that it was inconclusive. And then the defense said that they did further testing that excluded Kohberger. What does that mean? The fact that first inconclusive, but then the defense is citing this independent testing. And then why wouldn't they want it kept in, Edwina, if it shows that it wasn't him? Why are they trying to get it thrown out ahead of trial?
I think that the defense argument there is that the inference from what we can deduce from what this testimony was at the grand jury is that the state wants to infer that it was Kohberger, despite the fact that it was inconclusive. So I think that the defense is wanting to insulate against any inference whatsoever that the source of that DNA is Kohberger.
What do you think it means that that it's 3 individuals, according to this filing? 3 individuals' DNA found under the finger.
You know, I just want to go to also, and this would probably be better answered by a crime scene person, but I'm going to take a stab at it. I think we all probably have DNA underneath our fingernails. Maybe not something as conclusive as if someone was a victim of a murder and actually scratched someone and got that person's skin cells and DNA really in a piece of tissue underneath their fingernails. But I would imagine from things you touch, from things you come in contact with, there must be DNA underneath your fingernails. And I've never, of course, had my underneath my fingernail swab to test this theory, but I would imagine that is true, Mike.
Oh yeah, if you're walking in a park with your significant other and you touch their arm, or you just rub their arm with your fingers, you're probably going to get a little bit of DNA, just a tiny bit of DNA, their DNA, under your fingernails. If you hold a child, and you with your bare hands, and you might get DNA under your fingernails. That's not difficult to do. We always talk about it in crime as a victim scratching, clawing in a fight for their life, and yes, that occurs a lot. But in this but for most people, they don't realize how much DNA that you actually shed through loss of a hair follicle, or touching something with your fingerprints, or leaving a little skin cells somewhere. Your DNA on a napkin. That's how one of the ways that they got Kohberger, or leaving it, on a glass of water or something like that. So yeah, we get DNA very frequently, other people's DNA, under our fingernails.
Yeah, and the other thing is that it's interesting to note that people shed like 50 to 100 hairs from their head, and I don't know in the time frame, but all the time. Right. So that in itself is also leaving DNA. And if it was a crime scene, it would become important.
Fingernails. What could that possibly indicate?
Well, with DNA evidence, and especially how little is required to get a DNA profile these days, is that it could be, right, anyone. She could be the source of the DNA. It could be an additional 2 other unknown individuals. But what the standout is that it's through the state's testing, it's inconclusive with respect to Kohberger, and through this independent testing, it ruled him out. So I'm not sure why the defense would want the DNA evidence thrown out if they have reliable expert testing that shows that excludes Kohberger from that DNA profile.
Yeah, so if the initial testing is saying inconclusive and the state additional testing is saying that Kohberger has been ruled out from the DNA under Maddie's fingernails, can they present both sides to the jury, or does the judge end up making a decision about which testing was more reliable? How does that work?
Well, theoretically, they can present both sides, right? The defense is absolutely entitled to put on whatever defense evidence that they have. However, depending on what this testing, this independent testing is and how reliable it is, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a state's motion trying to exclude that independent testing.
You know, I'm concerned with that too. Like, it doesn't exclude him, but so then why are they even saying that? If it's not him, what are they protesting about?
Yeah, Bill, I think on two grounds. First, they're worried that the prosecution is going to introduce the evidence saying that there was not only do you have the DNA on the knife sheath, but you also have the DNA. We found DNA under Kaylee Gonzalez's fingernails, but we can't we're not 100% sure any of it is Brian Kohberger's. And so therefore it's going to leave an inference in the jury's mind that it is Brian Kohberger, even if the witness says, I can't say for 100% that it's Brian Kohberger. We can't, exclude him. We can't include him. The jury might just think, well, okay, Lee Gonzalez must have, she's got the DNA in her fingernails. Okay, maybe it's messed up, whatever. Maybe there's not enough trace DNA to make a real finding of identification. But, reasonable person, I think it's got to be probably Kohberger's. So therefore, they don't want the jury to be confused. Second of all, they can say, look, if it's not really evidence, because evidence is anything in a court of law that tends to prove or disprove a fact at issue, and his guilt or innocence being there is a fact in issue. And if the DNA evidence can neither be inculpatory or exculpatory, it can't include him or can't exclude him, then it's not even any bit reliable. It's not even reliable evidence. So it shouldn't even be brought before a jury. So that's their two arguments that I see from